Bonjour, peeps. Good morning. This is Neshi with Star Nations Organization's main fan page and the live stream for the morning for the card draw. Yeah, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, August 29th. Yeah, can you believe that? Man, this month went by like that. Went by really quickly. Good morning, Stephanie. And hey, listen, I just got a text message from Elise Miller. She's one of our regulars here on the morning live stream. And there was some really strong storms that went through Michigan, just like the ones that came through Wisconsin yesterday. And they don't have any power. She was saying there's 12,000 people without power over in her area of Michigan. So good morning, Stephanie. Got to send some good thoughts and prayers that direction. She says that, the freezer was full of food and it's starting to thaw. So, I don't know. That's kind of rough. Been through that a couple of times. And so just sending good thoughts that way. Yeah. Good morning, Cindy Lynn. Good morning. Got my coffee. I haven't even had a sip yet. It's been kind of a busy morning. It's good stuff. Yeah, we had a stereo system, a Sony stereo system that we bought back in 1997 or 98, one of the two. It had a dual deck cassette for recording and dubbing and that kind of thing. And it had, of course, the AM FM receiver. And it also had a CD carousel and a turntable and two really big speakers. And it had the cabinet that everything fit in. Yeah, we dismantled everything. Oh, gosh, it's got to be at least a couple of weeks now. We had to get a new TV. Had to, only because the old one was just not quite doing what it used to do, right? And we found out how far out of sync we are with stuff. And Paul's usually good with this technical items, better than I am. And so he went out and bought a TV and then realized that our stereo system couldn't hook up to the new TV, of course. Of course, right? So anyway, this morning we finally found a home for the elderly stereo system. It's also got surround sound, so you could hook it up to your TV and have that theater effect. But we did find a home for it. Paul was working through and has given things to the Veterans Association here. They have kind of like it's kind of like a Goodwill kind of store, but it's not Goodwill. It definitely goes out to the veterans here in the area. And so we try to support them as much as we can. So Paul called him the other day and said, hey, we have this old system for stereo, and would you guys like to have it? And they said, yes. Oh my gosh, he forgot this. He took it down there today and he forgot the turntable. He's going to have to go back. So anyway, we spent the morning, or part of the morning, getting that all dismantled and all of that into his truck. That took a good 30 minutes, actually. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And so that kind of took up the extra time I have in the morning. Yeah. So good morning, everybody. Say, listen, I'm going to say it one more time. We have people both here in Wisconsin who are Star Nations community members, and also over in Michigan. We had some really strong storms going through yesterday, actually for the last 2 days, because the night before we had tornadoes, and yesterday afternoon and evening we had thunderstorms and torrential rains again. There's a little town just west of here, about 20 minutes or so, called Wilton. And they had 10 inches of rain, and they had streets washed out, and And Elise just contacted me saying she wasn't going to be able to attend the live stream this morning because they don't have power. And like there's like 12,000 people. I think it was 12,000. Let me double check. Take a look at my text messages that I got from her. 12,000 homes without power in her area. So, prayers and good thoughts heading that direction. If you live anywhere near somebody that is going through some stuff with these storms, check on them. See if they need water, see if they need maybe take over a dinner or two for them because it's going to be hard, or because they don't have power, their freezers are things in the freezer are starting to melt. And so maybe what you can do is help them eat the ice cream, and not have to throw everything away out of the freezer. So yeah, it's tough. They'll get through it and on the other side of it. But when you're right in the middle of something like that and you don't have any power, that's when you miss it the most, don't you? It's like you go to flip on a light switch that you always do just automatically, and there's no power there. There's no light. And if you live out in the country and you have well water and you don't have power, that means you don't have water because you can't run the pump to bring the water up from the well. Yeah. Hey, Patty Hirschberger. Good morning. Thank you for coming. And Cindy Lynn's here too. Love and prayers to them. That's right. So today is Wednesday, middle of the week. We are, I am heading into the final stretch. And today is going to be it. And getting all of the articles and pictures and all of that prepped for layout. And be sending everything over to Elf Elm and Publishing, who are our layout specialists, and they'll get a crack at it to get everything pulled together and laid out. This is the exciting part. This is the very creative end of each month when we're working on the magazine, Star Nations magazine, because the contributing writers, they send in their articles to me. They're all edited and all that, and their pictures if they have any. And what I do is I get everything into a format that is better for Elf Elm, so that it makes their job just a little bit easier and goes a little bit faster. And so, yeah, this part is the creative end of it, where you get all the raw materials and you're seeing how they kind of come together. To me, that's exciting. I know I'm partial, but what can I say? All right, so today's card draw. And for those who haven't been with us for the live stream, we are doing the card draw, daily card draw from Sacred Geometry Oracle Deck by Francine Hart. It was published in 2001. I purchased it in 2002. I had just dove into the deep end of the pool with Sacred Geometry at that point. And I think I was at a feng shui something. I don't remember if it was a local, regional kind of association meeting, or if it was at the international conference. I can't remember. But what I remember most about is buying this deck, because it was the first one about Sacred Geometry Oracle deck that I'd ever seen. And I'm sure that there's many, many more out there now. But I just haven't looked because I like this one the best. So has anybody in the chat, do they have a different Sacred Geometry deck cards? Just wondering, maybe what we can do is share, and if you really like it and it's done well by you, if you could put it in the comments, and that way we can share the resource for it, right? Yeah. This morning, it's very cool here. We won't get, our high for today is supposed to be 68 degrees. Right now, it's 57. 58. It's long pants, actually yoga pants. Got my long sleeve shirt on. It's almost time for socks. when you've gotten used to like 90-degree weather and you have a 30-degree difference, it is quite startling. Because I got up this morning and God, it's cold. It's cold in here. When I looked at the temperature, it was 54 degrees. Yeah. All right, so back to the cards. This is the first card of the draw for Francine Hart. How she developed her deck is we get two cards for a 2-card layout. And the right-hand side, the first card is the right-hand side, and it represents the male energies, logic, your mind, thinking, grandfather sky. And so the information that we bring in through our logical mind, okay? And the second card is the female aspect, which is our heart, our emotions, our intuition, and grandmother earth, okay? So, and I really like this method because the information that we get, we're bringing it in through all of our senses in a holistic way, through all of our bodies, and we, on the surface, we might not really understand the information, or, it might not really mean much to us. But in another part of our system, our bodies, it might mean a great deal. So, for instance, if we're taking it in and we're thinking, okay, that's the sacred geometry shape, and I don't know about that. But on a spiritual level, your soul recognizes these ancient cosmic images, and there's a remembrance that happens. And so I think Francine Hart was really smart when she developed her layout system. So here's the first card for today. It's called Expanded Sri Yantra. Expanded Sri Yantra. And we've had Sri Yantra before in another card, but this one is just a little bit different. We still have the lotus blossoms there and the triangles, but it's expanded. And if you look up at the top, you see a very bright light up there. And that is our higher self, or our soul self. The energy coming through universal energy. Yeah, let's see what's Francine. Francine has something really good to say about this card. She says that that this card depicts the Tantric Sri Yantra, but it moves beyond the boundaries created by that ancient symbol. Moving like a spacecraft over open waters, the symbol becomes one of freedom and liberation. Freedom and liberation. Yeah, I read that this morning and I thought, yay! I had a really good discussion last night after the show about our inner child and about the freedom when we have a healthy inner child and the kind of freedom that we feel with that. Yeah. Good morning, Rochelle. I do too. She says, I like that card. Me too. Expanded Sri Yantra. See if we can get the camera to focus on that. Just a little bit fuzzy. All right. So she says that this is a symbol of freedom and liberation. And so she says this card is about opening your arms and embracing the light of your inner being. Know that you always have choices, and that the choice you may be needing most is the freedom to be who you are, not someone the world expects you to be. She says it's a place of greater joy and freedom when we are who we were meant to be, right? Freedom. And that has a lot to do with our inner child. I didn't realize that. I had a light bulb moment with that information about the inner child last night. That the inner child the aspect of that part of ourselves resides in our heart chakra, and so the joy that we're looking for, the bliss, the the fun, it all resides in our heart chakra. Yeah, in our inner child. And so when we do our healing for the inner child, and nurturing ourselves, in a way, kind of parenting ourselves, we understand what it is to be loved as a child, and how to feel safe as a child, because many of us didn't grow up that way, feeling safe. Yeah, and so we have choices in that. We can, through our own self-healing, our own self-care, we can begin to embrace and love our inner child, that part of us, that aspect of us that has been interfered with in many cases. Yeah. Cindy Lynn says, I haven't come across any geometry cards, but I have 2 other decks that work for me more than others. I have one of Dana's Angel cards, and the other is Colette Baron Reed, Hidden Realms deck. I love the deck you're using as well. Yeah. I like Colette's books, her decks too. I just ordered a new one, and honestly, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's gonna write. It's not. It's hasn't even been published yet. And I was looking for a really a deck of, from a Native American point of view. And I've got the 2 that I have, the Sacred Path cards and the Sweat Lodge cards. And so I wanted to get another deck. And so this one isn't even published yet. It's coming out in the middle of September. And so as soon as that one gets here and I have a chance to spend some time with it, we'll use that one too. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Cindy Lynn. I appreciate it. She says, I've noticed how spot on they've been for me for the past 2 months. Oh, that's good. That's really good. The cards for me are kind of like a jumping off point, right? Because we're asking to be shown certain energy, certain information from spirit, from our spiritual teams, right? And so when we get cards like the expanded Sri Yantra, and we read about the meaning of the card, then we can relate it to what's going on right now, what's happening in the current moment, the current time frame, and why what we asked, our inquiry, right? And spend some time with it and get into a little bit deeper conversation with spirit to understand the message that's coming through. So the decks, the cards are a tool. They're a tool that I think helps us to really get in touch with our intuition, and in many ways helps us to trust our intuition, and our connection to spirit. It's kind of like dowsing, when you're using pendulum or rods. In the dowsing, it's a good bridge. It's a good bridge between you and spirit, and getting information, right? My intention with dowsing has always been that at some point I'm not going to need the rods or the pendulum. That I'll be able to feel that yes/no response in my body, right? That I can feel the underground water just by walking over the land, or the ley lines, that kind of stuff. So that the pendulum is a tool that bridges us to spirit. So we build up our confidence with it. When I first started to douse, I was taught by an older man where I used to live in Poinet. He was a dowser for, I don't know, like 40, 50 years, something like that. Um, and I had known him for a few years and didn't realize he was a dowser. And when I found out he was, I went to him with a gift and asked if he would teach me, and he did. He did. I remember my very first dowsing rods. I called them my country rods because I met him. He had me meet him at one of the local cemeteries. It was not quite in town. It was just on the edge um, of the downtown area, and had me meet him there. And we're sitting on the tailgate of his truck talking, and so he reaches in and grabs out two coat hangers, wire coat hangers, and I'm going, "What are those for?" And he goes, "I'm going to make you your dowsing rods." I said, "What?" Because the only ones I've ever seen are the copper ones, and so he took out some wire cutters and measured out the rod for the rod, and then bent them a little bit, 90-degree angle for the handle. Yep, those were my first pair of dowsing rods. And he had me walking behind the headstones, asking if the person who was buried there, if they had been a male or a female in their physical life. Yeah. So here I am out in the middle of people driving by and that kind of stuff, and using the dowsing rods, and that was like jumping in the deep end, because you're admitting that you're doing something different than a lot of people, and people were slowing down to watch, and it's like a couple of other people, older people, actually pulled over and came over and was talking to Lynn about what we were doing, and because they were sharing stories. Oh yeah, my dad used to do that, or I watched my grandpa do that, and yeah. So that the cards and the pendulum or the rods, for me, they're the bridge. They're a tool to help us to trust our intuition, trust ourselves. Yeah. All right. All right. Rochelle says you collect cards like I collect T-shirts. Cindy Lynn, maybe. I don't have that many decks of cards. Yeah. And then Cindy Lynn and Jacqueline are doing their hello sisters in the chat. Patty says the cards that work best for me is Mystical Shaman Oracle deck. Yep. That's a good one too. Yeah. Villadolo and Baron Reed and Lobos. Yeah. That's a good one too. I haven't actually worked with that particular deck, Patty, but I've watched people use that deck, and I like the way it feels. The energy of them. Yeah. So let's finish up about expanded Sri Yantra. So basically, this is about freedom, a greater joy, is opening our arms to embrace the light of our inner being, knowing that we have choices. We have choices. And she goes on to say, you must act in accordance with your emotional body, requires and makes responsibility for the outcome. Only you can decide what is appropriate and the right action. And there's freedom in that, isn't there? When we're making our decisions, our own decisions. And even though we're taking responsibility for those choices, the choice in itself is freedom. When we feel like we have no choice, that we're almost like we feel like we're being forced to do something, that doesn't feel good. It feels constricting, it feels like you're in a vulnerable position, right? And even with that, there's still choice in it. There's still some choice in it. And when we feel that way, like we don't have a choice, we also have a lower feeling of hope. I don't want to say hopeless, but it's not exactly a high extreme amount of hope. It's been lowered quite a bit. Right. Yeah. Cindy says you can try them on her website. Oh, that's cool. That's very, very cool. Yeah. And those, the digital ones, the ones that you can get an app for to be able to do a card draw that way, those are kind of cool too. I like those. But I have something about having the actual card deck in my hands, right? To feel the energy of the cards as you're shuffling, and you can feel it building, and then the card pops out. Or if you do, or the ones that you do when you do the whole, you shuffle them up and then you put them on the tabletop or something like that, and you spread them out and draw that way. Yeah, that's another way to do that. But it's really about trusting your intuition, feeling your intuition, right? All right, let's get to the second card. And the second card that came is the Hexagon. The Hexagon. Yeah. Six-sided. Six-sided. We see this a lot in nature. Honeycombs. Honeycombs. The bees. Hexagon. It's about beauty and perfection. That's how Francine describes it, is beauty and perfection. And why would she even say that? Because she says it's because the six-sided geometry of the hexagon speaks of structure, function, and order. We find the hexagon in such beautiful places like crystals and snowflakes, beehives. Yeah. For those of us who live in an area that, a part of the world that has winter, really what I find just so beautiful is after snowfall, and then and the sun comes out, and you can see all the crystals in the snow on the ground, and they're kind of sparkly. And there's just something about that is so mesmerizing to me. And it must be that inner child thing, because I just really like the sparkliness of it. And there's something about that, right? And all the work that Dr. Emoto had done with water crystals, freezing the water and seeing the crystals form. There's something about that. Yeah. I was just thinking about the bees, that we've, as two-leggeds, we have used their method of construction for constructing our own things as well. And knowing that there's a certain strength to how the hexagon is put together and stacked or connected together. There's a strength to it that you can have some a material that's very lightweight, but when you put it into a hexagon shape and put it together, it has strength. And so I was just thinking about that. There, in Europe, I've seen it in Ireland anyway, is that there are some early churches. They're called beehive churches, and they look like a beehive. And how they're constructed is they borrowed the construction based on the hexagon. They're not very large structures at all. It's usually just one room, and it's I wouldn't call it round, but it has that beehive kind of conical shape to it. Have you ever seen those? Even pictures of those? That's pretty cool. All right. And yeah, Cindy Lane saying, yes, I agree, Neshi, and it can be very frustrating. Yeah. making those, feeling like you don't have a choice. Yeah. And sometimes even when we say that, that is a choice, because there was other options out there that we could have done, and we eliminated them for one reason or another, and so we ended up with doing something that we really don't really want to do, but it was a choice in of itself. That's a choice. Hey, Margaret's here. Good morning, Margaret. And Ralph said, yes, I love it when snowflakes on the trees. Yeah, when we have a heavy snow, and especially on the pine trees, right? And the boughs, the branches kind of get weighted down. I like that too. I like it when the first few snow falls. When January, February roll around, I always say to Paul, we can live anywhere in the world. Why do we choose to live here? When cabin fever is really hitting, right? And yeah, and it's bitter cold. But we stay. I like it where I live because there's so many reasons, but mostly it's because the change of seasons is so dramatic. Now, no matter where you live, you still have the change of seasons, but when you live like in a desert area like Arizona, parts of New Mexico, Oklahoma, parts of Oklahoma, I should say, the seasons aren't as dramatic. The changes are more subtle. Um, and even if you live down there, I'm sure that they'd be saying something. Well, we have dramatic change too, but comparably, we have such dramatic changes in our seasons, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like to live where I do. Yeah. Yeah, Rochelle is saying I can make it to the end of February. Mine's usually January, end of January. Um, Francine writes that beauty is all around us. The card suggests that we focus on that beauty and seek ways to bring it in more consciously into our life. Sometimes our busyness, we forget to notice the beauty that surrounds us everywhere on the planet. And that just by drawing this card, it's reminding us to take the time to look at nature and to look at the beauty that's all around us all the time, and to actually bring it into our lives. Whether we go out for a walk, whether or not we cut some flowers from the gardens and bring them in, or we purchase some flowers and bring them into the house. What she's saying is that the hexagon in its structure, the structure of it is found in so many different places in nature, and it brings out beauty. It brings the beauty, and for us to incorporate it more often into our lives. Ouch. Got to get comfortable here. I have windows open. It's starting to get cold in here. And she says to take the time to appreciate its beauty and perfection, and to walk in beauty. And for me, that one little sentence, walk in beauty, that means, from a Native American standpoint, because there's a whole prayer about walking in beauty, is that we're living from our hearts. Our mind and our heart are balanced. We're kind. We have compassion for others. We appreciate nature, all of our relatives. And so that's walking in beauty, walking in balance. Yeah. And so, but bringing in a bit of nature into our lives, it also helps us to slow down from all the busyness, all the checklists, all the to-do lists. And I have several of those. All the to-do lists, is to take a few minutes and just to enjoy the beauty that's around us. And how many people in the live chat How many people actually take the time to do that? You know, I think that's one of the things about Star Nation's community is that we talk about it quite often, um, but many of the community members actually do this. They just don't talk about it. They actually do it. They take that walk. Many of people have gardens, whether it's vegetable gardens or floral gardens. Um, and that they take the time to do that. And Rochelle, I remember you telling me when you were here about your connection to the river that flows in front of your house and that you spend time with the river, right? Yeah. Um, we're allowing Grandmother Earth to nurture us in those moments. And it feels good. It really does. It feels good. And this card, which Francine writes about this card, also reminds me about somebody that is near and dear to my heart. Because Francine writes, perhaps a walk in the woods is in order. That sentence so reminds me of Minnie Kansman. She does the forest bathing walks, the Shinrin, and had gotten trained in it. But her connection to nature, the two books that she's written and how she talks about nature spirits in both books, and when she does her sit spot. I kind of floated an idea out to her a couple of months ago, and I think she did one or two. But I asked her not all the time, but when she feels so moved, as if she could do a live stream from her sit spot, if she has the the Wi-Fi capability to do that. When she's finished with her sit spot and sitting there, is to do a live stream and just share with us what she sees around her, and explain that sit spot for us, right? Yeah, because I think that it would be interesting for her to share that, and to share that through Nature Adventures, the show that we do together in our fan page, is to do that. And it reminds us to slow down and take in the beauty that's all around us. Mm-hmm. Cindy Lynn says, I do, about enjoying beauty, going out there into nature. Rochelle said, I simply like the river. I love the flow. Exactly. And I bet you anything, Rochelle, you could, if you sat and thought about this for a moment, watching that river for as long as you've lived there, and the changes that you see from season to season, and what that's like living along the river, living with the river, right? And Cindy Lynn is saying, I do it also every time when I listen to any of the shows on Star Nations also. Yeah. And that also reminds me of, because, we just did the Unity Breath last night on my show, the guided meditation. And we have part of that meditation is about bringing images to your mind, to your heart, about what you love and appreciate about Grandmother Earth and Grandfather Sky, right? And so we have these images that we bring to ourselves in that meditation. And so, a place that you've been before, someplace in nature that you've been that you just really loved. Why do you love it? Because it's beautiful there. Because of the beauty. There's certain places that stay with us in our memories. And when we close our eyes, or not even close our eyes, when we bring the thought of that place to us and remember what it looked like, what it felt like to be there, and feel the emotions around that is where we're going with the Unity Breath. Yeah. It could be right in your own front yard with the river. It could be in a state or national park. It could be a lot of childhood memories people use when they would go visit their grandparents that lived out in the country, to remember what it was like to help go pick apples, or taking walks down to the pond or something like that. And so that you those memories come back, and that you can really feel those feelings about that place, right? And we all have one if we just kind of sit and recall it. Or the times when you connect to grandfather sky in those images. Um, for me, it's that starry night, no street lights. And you're staring up at the stars and how they twinkle, or when you can see the Milky Way. To me, that is so beautiful, and I could spend hours watching. Um, or when the moon starts to rise, and it's yeah, those kind of images that you don't even have to close your eyes. You bring it right to your heart. And I think that's kind of what Francine is talking about, is we can bring nature to us even in our memories in those places. Margaret said, I'm outside repotting a plant, enjoying it, and your non-show. See, oh my gosh, that is so funny, Margaret. Thank you, first of all, for staying with us and listening and repotting those plants. But that's kind of what we're talking about, aren't we? Is taking the time with nature. Yeah. Cindy Lynn says, I love my connection with trees and taking photos of nature. Yes. Yes. And and so whenever we remember, whenever we are in nature, those beautiful places, is to go to the feelings of them. What did you feel like when you were there? What did you love about that place or that site? When you're looking up at the moon, why do you love looking at the moon? Bella Luna, right? Bella Luna. And going to the feelings of that. Big difference than thinking that it's beautiful, and that's all right, but go to the next step. And that is the feeling part of it. And the hexagon reminds us of that. The hexagon. So these two cards that we got today, what does that mean about the energy that's flowing today? What is it that is important for us to know about for today? And for me, what jumped out was the freedom, the choice. And when we choose to spend time with nature, to surround ourselves with the beauty of nature, that's a choice. And it makes us feel good. It makes us feel good. And to tap into that ancient memory that we have, that we are all interconnected, that we're not separate from nature, that we are a part of it. Two-leggeds, same as four-leggeds, and those who fly and those who swim, those who crawl, all things green, all bodies of water, right? The stone people, the stone nation. So it brings us to that ancient memory that we have, that's in our blood and in our bones, that we are a part of nature. We are one of Grandmother Earth's children and Grandfather Sky's children. We're their divine child. And when we make that connection, it's a choice. It is a choice that we make, and it does bring us freedom and beauty. And that's what I think the energy about today is all about. It's flowing. How do you guys feel about that? Charlotte's saying, I can remember as a little girl, about 5 years, looking up at the stars. I would do this on a regular basis. Loved it. I can see the stars here really dark. Oh, I bet that's great. Cindy Lynn says, the peaceful, chaotic beauty and wonderment of nature. Yes. I like that sentence too. Rochelle says, very calming, love and acceptance, things I didn't feel from my parents. Yeah. Yep. And so that's part of healing, isn't it, Rochelle? It's part of the healing process. Yeah, I believe so. So please remember, take what resonated with you today and what we shared, what we talked about. Embrace it. Hold it close to your heart. And watch how the day unfolds for you, the energy, how it flows through you. And are you a direct participant in that? Or are you a bearing witness to someone who is experiencing the flow directly, right? Either way, we're learning. Either way, we're learning. And if it didn't resonate with you, that's okay too. There's no problem that, no worries. Maybe we're just planting seeds, or you can be the messenger. Maybe you know somebody who would enjoy the information. You can share the link to the recorded video to them. So, yeah, there we go. Good stuff. Francine Hart, being thankful to Francine and all the work that she put into those cards in the book. And before I let you go, I just want to remind you about Soul Connections this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's with Polly Jo LeBay. And this particular live stream with her, we're not calling it a show, because it's more than that. It's much, much more than that. It's an opportunity for healing. As healers and light workers, energy workers, many times we put our own healing last on the list, because we're in service to so many other people, right? And until we get the nudge from spirit or the cosmic 2x4, because they've nudged us more than a dozen times. And we're going, yeah, I know, but I got to do this thing first. I have to help this person first. Wednesday nights are really meant for those of us who need some time, an opportunity to do our own self-care, our own healing. So, when we're working with our own spiritual teams, we have our own intentions of what we'd like to heal, or what we'd like, barriers we want to remove, or interferences, our own intentions. Polly Jo, what she does is she creates the sacred space to do that in, and holds that container for us, and actually assists us in the releasing and the healing, the conduit for that. Yeah. So if you're in need of a session yourself, join us, because I'll be there. I'll be there in the live chat and doing the meditation, because it's a time for me to be able to do my own self-care, right? So that's at 7 p.m. tonight, Wednesday night. It's every Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. And then Thursday, please come back and join us for Elder Day, Star Nation's Elder Day. The elders in our community, Connie Vaughter, her show is on at 10:30 Eastern a.m., Spiritual Mysteries of Life. And Carl and Ortrun Franklin, the Mystery School, is on at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so we have the morning elder and the evening elders. And I get to produce both shows. And so I get a front row seat to both those shows. And honestly, I always have a notebook there and a pen, because there's, along the way in both shows, I end up with an aha moment. I think, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Sorry. I have the windows open, and it's windy. And so we have a lot of pollen and stuff flying around. Yeah. All right. Just getting a little caught up in the chat room before we say goodbye. Rochelle said wanted to fly up to the stars. Yeah, I did the same thing when I was a kid. I'd sit on the hood of the car and lean against the windshield, right? And I can remember wondering why I can't go home. Why can't I go home? I want to go home. Yeah. Yep. There we go. All right. Well, please enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Just watch how the energy unfolds for you today, and how the information that gets shared with us from Spirit through the expanded share Yantra and the Hexagon, right? And we'll see you back here tomorrow morning for tomorrow's card draw. So until then, Bama Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.